The House will come to order. Prayer by the chaplain.
Loving and gracious God, we give you thanks for the wonder of your creation in our great state of Minnesota. We recognize your sovereign presence in the beauty of this world you created. We take delight in the Great Plains and the provision of grain and harvest. We marvel at the beauty of sunsets on a northern Minnesota lake as loons sing your praises. We thank you for the industry and complexity of urban and suburban life. As our landscape shows diversity and beauty, so we see the marvel of creation in one another. We give thanks for all Minnesotans. We are a diverse constituency. In the midst of our diversity, let us also discover a shared humanity and unity, recognizing we are created in your image. Guide these, your servant leaders, to design and uphold legislation to bless this state, our country and citizens, and ultimately our world. May they seek first to understand one another, then to be understood. May their discourse be respectful and clarifying, directed by your counsel. May they delight in one another as you delight in them. Bless them that they may sense your guiding presence as they serve you in this important leadership role. We ask all of these prayers in your good and gracious name. May the Lord, mighty Lord, bless and keep you forever. Grant you peace, perfect peace, courage in every endeavor. Lift your eyes to see God's face and God's grace forever. May the Lord, mighty Lord, bless and keep you forever. Amen.
The chaplain for today is Reverend Karna Hagen Moskalik from Gloria Dei Lutheran Church in Rochester, Minnesota. Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 90th Session, 2018, 80th day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Thursday, April 12th, 2018.
If there is no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. The member from Carver, Representative Pugh, for what purpose do you rise?
Point of personal privilege, Mr. Speaker.
State your point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I have a very special guest here with me today at the Capitol. It's been approaching 6 years since he's been here, a constituent, and I'm going to have you stand, Fremont B. Gruss, World War II combat infantryman, who was my guest when I was sworn in January of 2013. He came here today to testify for a bill that was heard in the Veterans Division and did a wonderful job. And I would like for you to join me in thanking him for his service and for all the veterans who have served the state of Minnesota and the United States of America.
Reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of this order of business has been placed on each member's desk. If there's no objection, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. Second reading of House files.
Second reading, House File number 2829.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File number 3301.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File 3703.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File number 3824.
Second reading. Introduction of House files. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The Chief Clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction of first reading of House Files 4405 through 4421.
First reading, House files 4405 through 4421.
Yep.
Calendar for the day. The first bill on the calendar for the day is House File 2887. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 2887, number 1 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to agriculture.
Recognize the member from Traverse, Representative Backer, to introduce your bill.
Speaker and members, thank you. Members, I share the governor's goal of ensuring that Minnesota's groundwater is clean and usable for our future generation. The challenges we've seen, members, this route is another long list of things farmers have been blindsided by this administration. Just some of the other examples is the Ag Water Quality Certification Program, ditch mowing, soil loss regulations, classifying biodegradable corn as a fugitive emission, and just last week, the crazy fines that we saw with the buffer noncompliance. Members, what this bill does is it has this rule fully vetted in the committee process in both the House and the Senate. Members, as my friend Rick Hansen said on the floor last Thursday, it's always better to hear things in a couple of spots rather than just one location. That is why this bill is before us today, ensuring respect of our legislative process. While rulemaking has been delegated to the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, this is an important and controversial issue. This bill does nothing more than require the Minnesota Department of Agriculture to allow us to approve the rule on nitrogen fertilizer. Thank you.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 2887.
Third reading. Discussion on House File 2887. The member from St. Louis, Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to move to re-refer House File 2887 to the Health and Human Services Finance Committee, and I ask for a roll call vote.
Representative Schultz moves to re-refer House File 2887 to the Health and Human Services Finance Committee. Is that correct? And a roll call has been requested. Seeing the required 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Discussion on your motion, Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a bill that deals with nitrogen fertilizers, and we believe that there is significant science to determine that significant amounts of nitrogen fertilizer can damage our groundwater and therefore our drinking water. And I think that this could lead to significant health care costs and costs to the state of Minnesota. So I'd like to talk about the science in HHS Finance Committee.
Discussion on the Schultz motion. The member from Traverse, Representative Backer.
Speaker and members, that is exactly why this bill is in front of us, so it can go through the full legislative process. I would ask you to not support that.
Further discussion on the Schultz motion. The member from Washington, Representative Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Representative Schultz, if you wanted to talk about the science about this, you should refer it to the Policy Committee. That would be where you would do that. And I think that this bill doesn't need to go to Finance, and it doesn't need to go to Policy either. We don't need to see it.
Further discussion. The member from St. Louis, Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it probably needs to go to both, but I'd like to see it at HHS Finance because of the cost implications of contamination of our groundwater and the potential health effects and the cost of those health effects to the state of Minnesota.
Further discussion on the motion to re-refer. Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the motion. The clerk will close the roll. There being 48 ayes and 77 nays, the motion does not prevail and the bill is not re-referred. Members, we now have House File 2887 before us on third reading. Discussion on 2887 for final passage. The member from Rice, Representative Bly.
Thank you, Speaker. Clean water protection in my district is a huge issue. Legislators before me of both parties have worked to represent that position in the legislature. My predecessors, Representative Tuma and Representative Cox, both passed legislation to this end. I heard from constituents that implore me to oppose this bill and protect clean water by allowing the Minnesota Department of Agriculture to follow through on implementation of the proposed nitrogen rule. This bill, House File 2887, is designed to circumvent the authority of the Minnesota Department of Agriculture given to them by the legislature when it passed the 1989 Groundwater Act. It is my opinion that it is also part of an effort to claim that the DFL and Governor Dayton are anti-farmer and anti-rural Minnesota. I want to make it clear that I do not believe this is true. What Governor Dayton has made clear is that he wants clean water for all Minnesotans, and he has reiterated time and time again that this is something all Minnesotans must work together to secure. The Department of Agriculture has instituted the Water Certification Program to encourage farmers to demonstrate their best practices and show their efforts to keep Minnesota waters clean. Governor Dayton's efforts to ask farmers to implement practices that have been on the books for years but went unenforced by some, and his efforts to fund much-needed water infrastructure show his concern for healthy drinking water, healthy recreation, and opportunities for economic development in rural Minnesota. If rural communities can't assure future residents and businesses of clean water, this will affect their ability to grow and prosper. Many farmers do their best to be good stewards of the land and water. However, research has shown that despite improving practices, nitrate levels are not declining. Clean, safe drinking water should be accessible and affordable to everyone, regardless of geography, income, or water resource. In the letter, which you should have I'll have a copy of from Steve Morris of Minnesota Environmental Partnership, signed by numerous other organizations, states that about 70% of Minnesotans get their drinking water from public or private wells. That is why the legislature approved the bipartisan 1989 Groundwater Protection Act, which gives the state authority to prevent contamination of our groundwater. Nitrate contamination in drinking water is a growing public issue. An extensive body of research shows that nitrate from nitrogen fertilizer can leach below the root zone and migrate into our groundwater, despite farmers' widespread adoption of efficient nitrogen fertilizer application practices. The problem is getting worse. 537 public water supply wells across the state have elevated nitrate levels, including some wells in my own district. More than 50 communities in Minnesota are facing significantly elevated nitrate levels. Nearly 10% of Minnesota Department of Agriculture tested private wells in vulnerable areas exceed the health risk limit, HRL, including some townships from 30 to 40% or more of private wells unsafe to drink. Because treating the well water or finding new drinking water sources can be prohibitively expensive for communities and individuals. Preventing this contamination is vital to protecting public health. The draft Groundwater Protection Rule was developed with public input. To address their growing nitrate problem, the Minnesota Department of Agriculture updated its nitrogen fertilizer management plan beginning in 2010 with assistance from stakeholders, advisors, and more than 420 written comments from citizens over a 5-year process. Based on the revised NFMP, the MDA released an informal draft groundwater protection rule in 2017. The agency hosted 17 statewide listening sessions, engaging over 1,500 individual and reviewed over 820 written comments. Following extensive revisions, the Minnesota Department of Agriculture released a revised draft rule in March 2018 to be followed by additional stakeholder input and public participation prior to adoption. The rule helps protect public health while maintaining farm productivity. I won't quote further from that letter because I think you can read that. Minnesotans have waited nearly 30 years for the state to act in the face of mounting evidence of nitrate pollution in our groundwater, one of our state's most valuable long-term assets. We all know that this institution is a political arena, and the stakes are high for winning control of the legislature. And too often it is tempting to use whatever means we can to gain that control. But there should be no question that we should stand in protection of our democratic institutions and our water. Citizens expect we will practice transparency and respect the division of powers outlined in our Constitution between the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. We should strive to rise above political gamemanship and attempt to govern in a way that best serves the people we represent. This bill attempts to supersede the power of the executive branch by taking away that authority the legislature gave the Department of Agriculture with the 1989 Groundwater Act. The bill calls into question the ability of the Department of Agriculture scientists to develop a sensible plan that takes into account the challenges farmers face and the needs of citizens, including farmers, to have their water protected. Some of the advocates of House File 2887 have said that scientists have not considered all the potential causes of elevated nitrate measurements, such as wild animals, perhaps geese, or perhaps nitrates that were naturally occurring or in the water from previous years of nitrogen use not related to current practices. Some argue that the issue of regulations is the most worrisome issue farmers face, even above actions by the Trump administration to approve corporate mergers that will limit competition and farmers' choices and freedoms, to start a trade war with China and threaten trade agreements with our neighbors that have been helpful to the farm economy, to nix policies that support the renewable fuel economy in favor of fossil fuel supremacy, and to further restrict access to the health of farmers, the farmers that have struggled with for years. Farming is a dangerous enterprise, and not to assure that farmers have access to affordable health care has to be a huge threat, not only because as farmers' bottom line, but also to their survival. Some have said that the new practices will take care of concerns about nitrogen, and they argue that legislators must have oversight of these efforts to improve water quality, even though they may not have the knowledge or the expertise to interpret the research. The author argues that the cost of fertilizer causes economical farmers to limit nitrogen use, as it is wasteful to spend money on things that won't benefit the bottom line. In spite of the research, farm groups and farm advocacy groups argue that the precision practices should eliminate concerns about the impact of agriculture on clean water. These practices have been in use for some time and have not reduced the dangerous levels of nitrates. Scientists at the University of Minnesota have determined that a change in the cropping systems of that farmers use must be changed in order to have the desired effect, assuring safe water. I know the corn growers, Farmers Union, and Farm Bureau, and other farm organizations acknowledge the importance of controlling farm runoff and have encouraged implementation of practices to limit nitrogen use. I'm confident farmers want to do the right thing. However, something we don't talk much about is that the corporate interests that have shaped modern agriculture, from chemical companies to global grain companies that encourage increased production and high yields at the cost of other concerns. Efficient farmers strive for maximum production and often try to make ends meet with a narrow profit margin. Even farmers who do their best to protect the environment may have tough choices to make when surviving in their current global market, where prices fall and rise with changes in political, economic, and climate changes. The current cropping system, heavily reliant on corn and soybean large acreages, along with large confined animal unit production that demand capital investment, make farming a high-risk challenge. Add to this the number of acres rented for production. It makes it a situation where economic decisions and practices must be governed by considerations of efficiency and cost effectiveness, meaning there could be times when economic considerations outweigh environmental ones. It also makes considering a change in the current cropping system very difficult. The use of chemical fertilizer, along with numerous other chemicals, although helpful to farmers initially, does cause concern about their impact on the health of humans and animal life. This is a pattern we have seen play time and again with progress. We are encouraged to develop practices and use materials that offer tremendous benefit without considering potential problems. It is hoped when we encounter problems, we use the good sense to address those problems rather than just continuing on when we know the problems exist. We know about the problems in the Gulf of Mexico, and now we know there are problems with nitrates. It is our responsibility as legislators to enable agencies staffed with scientists to protect the water we drink and the air we breathe. That is what the Groundwater Act and this proposed nitrogen rule should do. It is my sense that the Minnesota Department of Agriculture has made efforts to consider economic impacts as well and is willing to be flexible on taking comments from farmers. It is not clear to me that legislators have either the scientific or the economic expertise to deal with all of these issues on their own. It has been our practice in America to have a wait-and-see attitude toward industries that have a tendency to use pollutants. In other countries, they apply a preventive principle, which means they rely on testing to derive the best assurances that products are safe and will be applied safely. Our methods have tended to allow the experimentation until there is a problem. However, we have a difficult time when confronting with a problem to make necessary adjustments. We let political and economic considerations intervene, making it difficult to solve the problem. This is what worries me. With bringing the approval of development of this rule into the political process, where parties may attempt to use numerous other political considerations to attempt to secure some electoral advantage. Thank you.
Recognize the member from Pope, Representative Anderson.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. and members, my goodness, the sky is not falling here. We are not trying to derail the nitrogen rule. All this bill simply does is says, when this is completed, the timeline looks like it's going to be sometime in December. It should come back here in January for final approval. And, you know, going back over the last couple of years, not trying to rehash things, whatever like that, but I think there's a feeling among a lot of ag folks that there's been a lack of communication. Maybe it's both sides. I'm not blaming one side totally, but you know, going back to the treated seed thing at the state fair and to last week's thing with the Bowser APO situation, there needs to be a better job of communication done by all parties. And there's a lot of concern among the ag people that this nitrogen rule is being put forth with not a lot of input and such. Although I do have to say that the department has gone around the state, took input during the summer, and the second draft is a lot better. There's some good things in it. And I would also tell you that farmers are pretty much doing most of these things currently. So there's a feeling that we're doing these things already. Do we need regulations to tell us to continue doing the right thing, which is keeping fertilizer nutrients out of our groundwater? And because there's been this, I'll say, lack of trust among the agencies and the ag community, I think it's prudent that we bring this bill back, bring this draft rule back when it's finalized. Again, if it's in December, bring it back here in January for final approval by this body, taking under advisement the advice we get from the experts to say if this is good or bad. But I'm trusting it will be a good rule. They've done some good work already, made some changes, took off parts of northwest Minnesota, and listened to folks. And we're just trying to make sure that when the second draft comes back, it is good to go here in the state of Minnesota to protect our groundwater and allow agriculture to continue doing the good job they do, providing food for us and for the world. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
The member from Nicollet, Representative Johnson C.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and members, and probably most important, Minnesotans. Representative Anderson, I'm just going to respectfully disagree with you. I just think that my neighbors are really sick of the partisan politics, especially when partisan politics get inserted into some things that are really fundamental. I don't know what's more fundamental than potable drinking water. When you've got a well that's gone bad, or when you're in a city that you cannot trust the water source anymore, that's big news. You don't need partisan politics inserted. Just to demonstrate the need, I want to just point to a couple of pieces of geography that I'm personally familiar with. The first is the Pineland Sands up around Park Rapids. If you know that country, you know it's when they say Pineland Sands, they mean there's a lot of pine country up there, and it is sand. And obviously, when you apply fertilizer in a region like that, it leaches quickly to the groundwater. There's a whole lot of folks out in the countryside there who have wells, and my family's had a small tree farm up there for a couple of generations. I know those are my neighbors. Wells are always a topic of conversation up in that neck of the woods. They're very much more a topic of the conversation now, because as those pine lands have been changed to more agriculture, neighbors to those farming operations have seen the water in their wells degrade to the point where it's past the 10-point limit, to the point where their grandkids can't drink the water when they come visit Grandma and Grandpa. You know, it just seems to me that potable water and having potable water in your home is something that all Minnesotans appropriately ask for. And it's up to us to make sure that we can provide that. I'd like to give you another example that's directly in my district, the city of St. Peter. And I find it interesting, I think, that the city of St. Peter, because it values its relationships with the ag community, our communities in my area, I think you know, we value very closely our relationships with agriculture. They're quiet about this, but back in 2011, they installed a reverse osmosis system. I don't think there's anybody around there, I've never heard anyone suggest that it's anything other than agriculture that's creating it. It's kind of a geographic anomaly. We have heavy soils where I'm at, except where St. Peter draws its water. And that's in some more coarse soils. And as a result, if they wanted to have potable water in the city of St. Peter, they opted to put in a reverse osmosis system. And the cost of that is very real to the citizens of St. Peter. I talked to the Public Works Director the other day. He estimated that the average home, most homes, are paying about $10 more a month for their water bill to maintain that system. That's $120 a year. And so far, most homeowners and most families in St. Peter have contributed about $1,000 extra to make sure they have clean water. Now, the folks in St. Peter accept that, but I also think they also expect that the agriculture addresses that in that area. And frankly, I think the farmers do too. This came up in a town hall I had in St. Peter about a month ago, and a gentleman who farms in that area had said immediately, "Of course I farm differently in that part of my farm that's in those coarse soils." The point I'm making is that this is a reasonable request. I've gotten to know a lot of farmers in this experience. It's been one of my favorite parts of my job, I'll be real honest. And I'll tell you, the farmers I know and the farm organizations who are active in this issue are really making agriculture a partner in clean water and a partner particularly in clean drinking water. I think the corn growers are a good example of that. If you go on their website, see what they're doing for sustainable agriculture. And I think it is instructive that of the major farm groups that came before the committee to testify on this bill, they all expressed concerns about the process. I share those. I am retiring, and I promised I'm going to watch that process this summer as it goes forward. That's going to be how I'm going to spend some of my summer vacation. But they asked that there be good maps, they asked that there be enough time for comment, and they asked for the rule to come out earlier than planned. I think those are very reasonable requests, and I asked the governor to follow those requests. They didn't ask that politics be inserted into the process. They didn't ask that this become a partisan political issue. None of them asked for that. And I agree with them on that as well. The point of this exercise today is to bring the question of clean drinking standards, drinking water standards, again, potable water standards, this is drinkable water, folks, to a partisan political body. Inherently, this House is a partisan body. I accept that, and Minnesota accepts that and expects that to be part of the process. But when we have rulemaking, we have it for a purpose. It's to pull the politics out, insert the science, and make sure that the people are heard within that rulemaking process. I think that's being done. Let's not put partisanship into the idea of whether we have clean drinking water in this state. Let's vote no on this bill.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Wagenius.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I asked to have this map handed out. What it is a map done by the Department of Agriculture, and it shows drinking water wells, spots where drinking water wells have been tested in the state and shown to have above the health risk limit of nitrogen in the well. The Department of Ag is not testing the whole state. The Department of Ag is only testing areas that are vulnerable, perhaps because of sand, like you just heard about, and that these wells are in areas where there is at least 30% row crop in that township. So this testing is by township. You can look at the chart on the bottom and you can see that 1,912 wells have been tested in Minnesota, and this is in the last couple of years, and found to have nitrogen above the health risk limit. But if you look at the chart also, you're going to see that the Department of Ag knows roughly how many wells are in each township. And since the testing so far has only been voluntary, we have to project and estimate how many wells in that township that has already been tested would test above 10 parts per million. That is above the health risk limit. And our ever great House research has made that projection and found that over 5,000 wells in this state can be expected to have over the health risk limit of nitrogen in their water. So let's carry on with where the Department of Ag also tells us that in these wells, where there's nitrogen, there will be pesticides, and the correlation is high. So where there's a little bit of nitrogen, there will be a little bit of pesticide, a variety perhaps. Where there is a lot of nitrogen, there will be a lot of pesticide. And since we're looking at only wells with a lot of nitrogen on this map, you can expect that there would be pesticides in all of them. The reason I'm bringing this to you, because I am a Minneapolis resident and represent part of also Richfield. My Minneapolis residents drink Mississippi River water. So the green part on the map is something I added to the Department of Agriculture's map. And the green section is the upper Mississippi watershed. All of this water drains down the Mississippi, and the water intakes for Minneapolis and St. Paul will be just about at the point where the green ends on the map. So Minneapolis and St. Paul serve not just their own residents, but they serve a number of suburbs around them. So I've shown you where the intakes are, and I've told you about my Minneapolis residents that drink this Mississippi River water. So to the extent that the ag rule is effective in reducing nitrogen upstream, then my drinking water source will be less contaminated. So if Representative Green, at the top of the watershed in District 2A, helps his constituents by supporting measures to protect their drinking water, then my constituents who drink the water will be helped also. Similarly, Representative Nornes, Representative Franson, if you are protecting your constituents' drinking water, then my constituents' drinking water will be protected too. And so will a lot of other people. Remember, I said there are 1 million people who drink Mississippi River water. So you look down the list, Representative Kreshat, Representative Poston, Representative Knobloch, and all the rest of you who are upstream of the Mississippi River intakes for Minneapolis and St. Paul. If you work to protect the drinking water of your constituents, then my constituents and all the rest of those in the Mississippi watershed, their drinking water will be protected too. A rare win-win on the Minnesota House floor, and a good reason to vote no on this bill.
The member from Ramsey, Representative Becker-Finn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to address some of the comments we hear in this space all the time. And one of those things is all this bill does. And when I hear that, I start paying attention. And I hope that the public starts paying attention, because when we hear all this bill does, what we hear is a minimization of what's really going on. And this bill in particular that we're voting on today doesn't just address the one rule that other members have talked to the specifics of. This bill, all that it does is that it would stop the Department of Agriculture from adopting any requirements in the future as well to protect our drinking water from nitrogen. And one of the other things that we hear a lot here is settle down, the sky isn't falling. Well, the sky doesn't fall in one day or one election cycle. And when water gets polluted, it's hard to fix. And when it gets polluted, we often don't find out until people start getting sick, and often we don't start finding out until kids start getting sick. And I'm not okay with that. I think that's too big of a risk, and I don't want to take that risk with the health of kids in protecting drinking water for Minnesotans. The sky wasn't falling in Flint, Michigan until it was too late. I encourage all of you to ask Flint, Michigan how it's going regaining access to safe drinking water. It isn't an easy thing to fix. So let's look further ahead than the next election. Let's look towards health. Let's look towards protecting drinking water for all Minnesotans. We know how to do this. The science is there. Instead, we're choosing to stop the Department of Agriculture from protecting our families. So vote no.
The member from Mauer, Representative Poppy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I'm going to speak in opposition to this bill, and there are a couple of reasons why. One is this has already been a very transparent process. There was some conversation about this being a blindsided all of a sudden it landed in people's laps. This has been around since 1989 with the Groundwater Protection Act, but even since 2010 that people have been engaged in talking about the groundwater, talking about drinking water, talking about what we're going to do and how we can protect it. And it's been something that has risen as an issue for many people. Many people are much more concerned about their groundwater, much more concerned about their drinking water when they actually can't use it, when they can no longer drink it. So it has been around for a long time. And what this bill would do is to seek that legislative approval. And I think that that actually could have the potential to disregard or minimize the actual comment period and the number of people who would speak to the benefits of this, having this rule in place. And I think that that's something we just need to be cautious about, that as we're thinking about having people comment on this, we want to have everybody be able to feel as though they're going to be able to comment and that they're going to be able to have their views heard. So I'd really just encourage us to consider that as well. The other things that we've talked about and we've heard in committee are the things that I'd like to see happen. We have the interactive maps. People are passing out maps. We know that those maps are in place, and that's something that the department already has done. Another issue is that the rule actually isn't out yet, and we have asked for the rule to be out as quickly as possible. The governor has indicated that today, either Friday or today, he has taken the action that he needs to do, and so the process is moving forward. That means that this rule should be out within the next 2 weeks, and then everybody will be able to review it and be able to make comments on it. But even as of last summer, last June 2017, there was a proposal out and people were able to comment, and those comments were listened to. And I think that, we hear sometimes in committee, we have some of the same people that come before Ag Committee and testify, and I've heard this more than once, but the comment that if we're not at the table, we're on the table. And I think that that's something we have to keep in mind, that the farmers want to be at the table, and many of them have been at the table for many years, and at least from 2010 until the most recent, and to be a part of this rulemaking is something that's important to them. So as much as possible, we can allow them to have an extended period of time, if at least 60 days for a comment period, and to be able to get this bill out or this rule out as soon as possible so that everybody can have the opportunity to be heard yet this session, and we can continue to do the oversight that needs to be done, and that oversight is to continue to be at hearings, to continue to listen to the farmers in our district, to also listen to the people who live in the cities. Different people have talked about different things with regards to drinking water and how it's become an issue. And I deeply have a concern about the fact that we do have a rural and city divide. And we continue to kind of feed into that. And the reason why we feed into it is because it scores political points. And let me tell you, as somebody who represents a rural district, I want my rural members to feel as though they are being listened to and that they have a voice. And I am here to be able to help them to have that voice. And I want them to understand that those who are doing the best management practices and understand what it takes to be able to be the best farmer they can be, they're already doing that. So to continue that will allow them to continue to stand tall, to continue to be the best farmer, and to help them so that they aren't in the position of being at a divide between the rural and the city. We want to make sure that everybody has opportunity to be heard. They will do that they also have the opportunity for clean drinking water for themselves and their families. And I think too that this has been seen as kind of a pile-on situation. We've had some recent situations that have come up, but this is a pile-on also when it comes to the tariffs and the potential trade wars. It's also healthcare I talk to farmers a lot. They're talking to me about the cost of their healthcare and what is not being fixed on that front. We have the weather. Obviously, farmers are concerned right now about the weather and how that's impacting their ability to get into the ground or to be able to do the work that they do with their animals or with their crops. And so there are a number of things that are going on for farmers right now. But this is not one of their, this is something that we can help them. We can help them be at the table. We can help them have the conversations that they need to have and help them know that they are being listened to. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would speak in opposition.
Member from Ramsey, Representative Baker Finn. Member from Waseca, Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I also am I feel very important about clean water. I think it's important for us all to have clean water. But I also am very much aware that in this body, we hear an awful lot of inflammatory conversation. We have a lot of fear that is listed out there. We get anecdotal information like, well, if there's higher levels of nitrogen, then there must be higher levels of insecticide and herbicide. Whether that's true or not, we haven't had any information on this floor that indicates that. And the question I want to get back is actually to the science rather than just inflammatory discussion. This letter that we read most of, I want to just reread one of those lines, and it says, despite farmers' widespread adoption of efficient nitrogen fertilizer application practices, the problem is getting worse. I don't know about you, but I'm very much aware that over a decade ago, we've been concerned about nitrogen levels in the water, been testing it. There is an automatic finger pointing to the largest user of nitrogen, which is the farmers, saying, therefore, it must be your problem. Please consider reducing your usage, figure out how to use it. The report says they actually did, but the problem is worse. Nobody has considered the idea that maybe we're pointing to the wrong place. Much like years ago during the 70s when smog was very heavily prevalent in a lot of major cities, it was expected that it was the industries that were creating it with the big smokestacks. They reduced those smokestacks, they redid that and found out that the real purveyor of smog was automobiles. Since then, we've actually figured out what the process is and trying to figure it out. All I would like us to do here is make sure that we're actually identifying the proper course, the proper problem, that is creating the nitrogen expansion, instead of saying, well, farmers, you're still using too much, when in reality, everybody should expect, even if they cut down, we should have at least seen a plateau of the nitrogen level in water instead of it continue to rise. So there's got to be something else going on. To me, it just makes common sense. So I think this at least is a possible movement forward for us to say, hey, take another look. Maybe we should think about what other options there are, what other areas of nitrogen pollution are going on up there. And let's make sure that the legislature at least have some input before we decide it as well. Please support this House file. Thank you.
The member from Dakota, Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I would urge a no vote on the bill. I've handed out another map, and this one, if you look at it, Mr. Speaker and members, it's purple. It's purple because it's not blue, it's not red. The vulnerable areas in groundwater belong to members of both parties. Except Representative Garofalo, you'll see that little green Garofalo area there in Dakota County. I'm not sure that's purple, but it's... why are these areas vulnerable for groundwater contamination? First, in the southeast, you have coarse-textured karst topography. So you have limestone bedrock that has a lot of fractures in it. So when it rains, or when the snow melts, the water moves rapidly through those cracks and crevices. There are also sinkholes that water can be moving as a conduit. And the interaction between surface water and groundwater is pretty constant. When you look in the central part of the state, you see coarse textured soils that are sandy, or areas in Dakota County, kind of in that green Garofalo area there, Representative Garofalo area, coarse textured soils. So instead of silty areas like up in the northwest Red River Valley where the soil particles are packed tight together so it's harder for the water to move through. So to think about nitrates, nitrates move with water. Phosphorus moves with soil. The phosphorus attaches to the soil particle. Nitrates move with water. It's water soluble. So when you have those cracks and crevices between the soil particles, the water moves through them faster and it carries contaminants with it. And again, it doesn't differentiate between Republican sand or Democratic sand, or Republican limestone or Democratic limestone. It's the geography. We hear all the time one size doesn't fit all. We have a very diverse state. And so what this rule does is it recognizes that based on the input and based on the science. Now, we just had a little bit of a debate about the science from members, and I handed out another sheet showing about nitrogen sales. Now, it doesn't say nitrogen ag sales, and it doesn't say nitrogen urban sales. It doesn't say nitrogen suburban sales. It says nitrogen sales in Minnesota. Nitrogen fertilizer. It doesn't differentiate where that fertilizer is applied. And those sales have gone up. So when the state, and I'll go back just a little personal part of this, back in 1989 when the Groundwater Protection Act was passed, I was a younger employee at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. And in 1990, not that long ago, I guess, almost 30 years ago, I worked on the first nitrogen fertilizer management plan. And the same debates we have on this floor were held then. The same debates, the same discussion. And so after almost 30 years of debating, we have spent hundreds of millions of dollars on voluntary practices as a state. And we have more work to do. So if we want to constantly continue that debate, the perpetual, never-ending debate, then you pass the bill, and we talk about this. We debate whether it's urban fertilizer, suburban fertilizer, or rural fertilizer. We'll debate whether it's a red district, red karst soils, or blue karst soils, or whether it's red sand or blue sand. We'll keep that debate going. And I think Minnesotans want us to move forward and have that opportunity for input, and that is what the rulemaking process has done. Now this legislature, we've debated over and over various variations of bringing the debate here, of having us make those decisions on science, on technology, and science. And we found that we don't really get resolution, except ultimately deciding we're going to put some more money into it. We can't buy our way out of these problems. We're going to need to resolve them. And if we pass this bill, it's just going to continue the ongoing debate. And as the speakers have mentioned, it does not only impact economies, but it impacts public health. That's why whether you live in the country or in a small town or in a suburb or in a city, we all drink water. Drinking water is important, and we need to continue the effort to protect that drinking water together. I'd ask for a no vote on the bill.
Further discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. Clerk will close the roll. There being 69 ayes and 56 noes, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Next calendar on the bill for the day is House File 3841. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 3841, number 2 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to local government.
I recognize the member from Carver, Representative Nash, to introduce his bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. House File 3841 is a bill that is going to help out local governments by raising the limit for publication and bids from $100,000 to $175,000. A lot of cities, counties, and townships out there that are doing a lot of building and growth, and this provision that has not been addressed in 10 years is going to allow that to happen, and it's going to make it a lot easier for cities, counties, and other local units of government to do just that. It is widely supported by both the League of Minnesota Cities, townships, counties, and the newspaper association as well, and I would stand for questions.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 3841.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. Discussion to the bill. Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. It's right there. Clerk will close the roll. There being 124 ayes and 1 no, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Next bill on the calendar for the day is House File number 3295. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 3295, number 4 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to family law.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Scott, to introduce her bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, in current law, divorcing parents can seek a joint petition, and what that does is it orders the custody, parenting time, and child support for the divorcing parents. And they are able to reach that agreement outside of a courtroom and come in and have the judge basically have a hearing with the judge and have that order, the judge issues the order. Under House File 3295, this allows the same joint petition opportunity for unmarried parents to do the same, so that they will be able to work an amicable agreement outside of the courtroom and file this with the judge and have it blessed by the judge. And so, members, it's a simple bill, and but I think it'll help a lot of people. And I would just ask for your support, and with that, I would take questions as well.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 3295.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. The member from Ramsey, Representative Lesh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is a good bill, good effort put into it by Chair Scott, thank you, and I ask for a yes vote.
Further discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. Clerk will close the roll. There being 125 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there are no objections, we will take action on these motions first. Hearing no objections, the motions prevail. Announcements. Representative Nornis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Point of personal privilege.
State your point of personal privilege.
Members, I'd like to have you meet someone that I just met for the first time today. Gentleman that has an interesting story to tell. He's here because he is an advocate for decriminalizing mental health. And he has a family story to tell, but we will not do that at this time. But I'd like to introduce Tim Berry. Will you stand, Tim? Tim is from Moorhead, Minnesota, and he decided to kind of get his message across the hard way. He walked from Moorhead to St. Paul, and he got all the way to St. Cloud, and then the snowstorm hit. So he didn't quite get to walk the rest of the way, but he did get about 170 miles worth in. So thanks for your efforts. We appreciate you being here, and we hope that I know you're being a part of a hearing later on today. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to yield to Representative Lean, please.
Representative Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members. Thank you, Representative Nornis, and special thank you to Mr. Berry for making the trek and really showing your dedication to mental health and telling your story to all of us that we need to do a better job of that. We need to do some things differently. So really, thank you for your dedication. I personally really appreciate it.
The member from Blue Earth, Representative Munson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Jobs and Energy Committee will reconvene in room 10 at 5 p.m.
Further announcements. The member from Hennepin, Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 12 noon, Wednesday, April 18th, 2018.
Representative Pepin moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 12 o'clock noon, Wednesday, April 18th, 2018. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Motion prevails. Representative Pepin.
I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Pepin moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Motion prevails, and the House stands adjourned until 12 o'clock noon, Wednesday, April 18th, 2018.